Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with a new series. Yay! Don't you love new series? I do, because there are so many different ways to talk about the great classics of music and so many different entrees into their magical realm. And so I'm working on this particular angle. And this angle is works we just can't stop collecting. This is for all you obsessive compulsive record collectors like myself. I mean, I am the acme of obsessive compulsive record collecting. And there are certain pieces I just get because I want to get them. And I want to hear everything. I want to hear all of them. They're so interesting. And there are lots of reasons why we strange beings in the classical music world collect multiple versions of everything. There really are. I mean, a lot of those things, well, first of all, you just love the work. I mean, you just love it and you want to hear everybody do it who does it, which is great because it's kind of like going to a concert whenever you want, as many times as you want to hear your favorite pieces of music. That's a nice thing. It's a great thing, really. Then there's you want to try and find the ideal performance of something which has been unsatisfactory in one way or another for whatever reason. And then there's sonic considerations. There's any kind of reasons, but whatever happens, you wind up with zillions of versions of the same thing. And so what I propose to do is talk about some of my own things that I have zillions of versions of that I collect compulsively. And I ask you to share your selections for things that you collect compulsively and list the top 5 of your compulsive collections. I mean, I don't need to see all 300 versions of the Eroica. There are people out there who do that, who have every single version of everything known to humankind. And that's not where we're going here, because this has to be, at least from my point of view, it has to be done in a way which might possibly be useful to somebody else. And so I'm going to list up to 5 of my top choices. In other words, when I feel like listening to the work that I've been compulsively collecting for decades, these are the versions I turn to most frequently. Now, that list can change over time. Of course it can, because new things are constantly being added, and you go back and listen to older things, and you may reshuffle your preferences. But these are going to be my top 5 picks. Unless there are less than that, then it'll just be however many there are. So we begin. We begin with Tchaikovsky's Manfred Symphony. Now, the first recording of the Manfred Symphony I didn't even know there was a Manfred Symphony. I really didn't. It was Gennady Rozhdestvensky on Melodia, which was at that time being issued by Angel or EMI Records in the United States. And I didn't even know that Tchaikovsky had another symphony. I thought he wrote 6 symphonies. Then all of a sudden you realize there's this enormous thing out there called Manfred, and I got it and I played it and I liked it. It was okay. That's a rather heavy-handed performance. It's still around. I mean, I heard it recently, and it was the theme music to that British production of Anna Karenina. It was on Masterpiece Theatre. I remember that quite vividly. But I did like the work. I thought that performance was a little bit on the dullish side and a little bit, well, like I said, sluggish. I mean, a lot of Rozhdestvensky was kind of sluggish, but that's not the point. The point is I soon realized that it was a very controversial work in Tchaikovsky's output, that there was a lot of disputatious vitriol being spilled about whether it was any good at all. I mean, Leonard Bernstein famously said it was trash and never touched it. And I still think we're waiting for the ultimate Manfred. We're waiting for a really great Manfred that solves all of its interpretive problems and really brings home the bacon. But I collected it in the hopes that I would always, that one of them would turn out to be the one. So here we go. You ready? Here are the top 5. First, the London Philharmonic with Vladimir Jurowski. Well, this is as close to the one as I think I've heard. It's a splendid performance. It's live. It isn't perfect sonically, but it's very, very exciting, and he doesn't put a foot wrong anywhere, and they play really well. And it's pretty much at the top of my list for the moment. After that, there's the London Symphony Orchestra with Vladimir Ashkenazy, one of his best ever recordings. It's right up there with his Rachmaninoff First. It's a very direct, very exciting, really loving interpretation that's gotten virtually no attention. I mean, it was out of print. It's disappeared. It came back on Eloquence, I think, Australian Eloquence for a while, but it's really just a pity that it isn't better known. It's certainly one of the best things Ashkenazy's done. Then number 3 is Riccardo Muti with the Philharmonia. Now it's so beautifully played, and it has thrilling things. There are only 2 issues that it has. The first is that at the end of the first movement, for some reason, he doesn't switch to crash cymbals for the final appearance of the Manfred theme, which really has to be done. And it's pretty clear, I think, what Tchaikovsky wants, but, he didn't do it. But you do get a tam-tam. Wow, baby! And the other issue is that the finale is a little bit sluggish. That finale is problematic. It's very sectional. And, the orgy at the beginning, it's a bacchanal. I mean, you just got to go nuts. And for some reason, Muti is very measured. I don't understand why. It's not that it doesn't have bite. It's not underplayed. It just needs more dynamism at that particular moment. So otherwise, it's a pretty splendid performance. And for a while, it was the one. It was the reference one for some of us. Then there's Bernard Haitink in the Concertgebouw as part of his complete Tchaikovsky symphony cycle. Like so many stepchildren of the great composers, Haitink is almost always at his best when he's running interference, when he's making a case or pleading for the acceptance of a difficult work, one that doesn't seem to go well. And he does that by just emphasizing sheer musicality, faithfulness to what the composer wrote, trust in the composer. I wouldn't call him cold or literal in that sense, but he trusts what's there, and he makes sure it's realized to the hilt. It's a gorgeous performance, beautifully played, wonderfully shaped. It's really, if you don't know it, you're in for a very, very pleasant surprise. And then last but not least, the Utah Symphony Orchestra under Maurice Abravanel. Why? Because it showed me, first of all, it's one of the earliest ones I had because it was available. And second of all, it shows you that a second tier, let's say, not rate, that sounds so nasty. A second tier orchestra under a really good conductor can do wonderful things. It's a fresh, exciting, straight ahead performance of Manfred that doesn't, he doesn't take, what am I going to say here? What I'm trying to say is that it's like Haitink with a less good orchestra. In other words, he plays it straight. The performance is very, very natural, very, very fresh. And he shows you that the music itself is really very good if you trust it, if you let it do its thing. So those are my top 5 Manfreds. I have, God knows how many more, 20 or 30 or so, who knows? But there they are. And I'm very curious to know if you have a list of 5, and if you don't, what other works you compulsively collect, or other works you'd like to talk about that you compulsively collect. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.